Chosen warrior, your journey was never about mere endurance or escaping petty threats. You infiltrated shadowed networks where darkness thrived unchecked, unraveled conspiracies woven into the very fabric of power, shattered the iron grip of clandestine empires, and illuminated hidden horrors long buried beneath silence and fear. They underestimated your resolve, blind to the fact that every step you took was a calculated strike, every breath a silent vow to reclaim justice. While they feigned control, you were the relentless force orchestrating their downfall, the unseen beacon burning through the night to expose their lies and liberate the oppressed. Let me reveal the truth beneath the surface. That powerful figure lurking in the shadows didn't zero in on you by chance or petty revenge. The moment you exposed their secret network, cutting off the flow of their illicit fortunes, they declared war on your existence. Your downfall wasn't a mere consequence, it was a calculated investment, a dark portfolio of sabotage and ruin they cultivated with cold precision, betting everything on breaking you because you threatened their empire. They saw you not as a person, but as a threat to be liquidated, a target in their ruthless game of power and control. You believed you were facing ordinary foes, driven by petty grudges or fleeting anger. But in reality, you confronted a calculated machine of psychological warfare, experts who dissect human minds with the precision of scientists, armed with playbooks crafted to break spirits and erase legacies. These aren't amateurs reacting impulsively. They are architects of manipulation, trained to exploit every fear, every doubt, every vulnerability. Their cold strategies and relentless drills are designed to crush anyone who dares challenge the dark foundations of their empire, turning battles into calculated campaigns of mental domination. Invisible watchers shadowed your every move, slipping into courtrooms and quiet spaces disguised as benign observers. Their questions weren't born of innocence but crafted traps, snaring you in webs of technicalities and false violations designed to silence your truth. That stranger who plopped down beside you, feigning concern, wasn't there to listen, but to harvest every word, every hesitation, feeding intelligence back to the dark web of operatives working tirelessly to dismantle your life. Every glance, every whispered inquiry was a calculated strike in a covert war waged against your freedom. The encounter unfolded with calculated precision. They settled beside you, their tone casual but probing, fishing for any sign of vulnerability. When you answered uncertainty, their questions sharpened, trying to bait you into revealing forbidden connections. As you calmly cited the restraining order that silenced your voice, their eyes narrowed, knowing every word, or silence, was being weaponized against you. They craved a misstep, a fleeting slip that would justify their next assault. But you stood unshaken, a fortress of silence, denying them the fuel to ignite another battle in their relentless campaign. Your spiritual insight became your shield, a beacon piercing through the darkness crafted by experts who've shattered countless souls with the same cold tactic. By refusing to fall into their provocations, you denied them the ammunition needed to forge new lies and false accusations. For too long, you've been caught in the web of trying to please others, blind to the bitter truth that these adversaries are driven by deep-seated hatred, bigots who fear and despise everything you stand for, everything you embody as a force of change and truth. You might have surrendered all your possessions, bowed in false repentance, and even expressed gratitude for their relentless attacks, and it still wouldn't have stopped them. Their fury isn't fueled by what you do or say. It's a deep, primal loathing aimed at your very being. You represent a threat to the fragile fortress of their corruption, an unyielding force that exposes their decay. Their hatred is a desperate attempt to extinguish the light you carry, a light they fear because it reveals the truth they've worked so hard to bury. The campaign against you was orchestrated with chilling precision, false allies sent in disguise, wearing masks of compassion and concern. They infiltrated your life under the guise of support, weaving a fragile web of trust that concealed their true intent. Every secret you cautiously revealed, every weakness glimpsed, was meticulously recorded, ready to be twisted and turned into weapons for their next strike. You met these imposters again and again, their practiced sincerity blurring the lines between friend and foe, their training flawless in camouflaging the venom beneath the smile. Your unwavering commitment to truth shattered their plans, for their entire scheme thrived on shadows, on lies whispered in fear, secrets buried to avoid suspicion, and fractured trust under relentless pressure. They sought to tarnish your credibility, to paint you as unreliable and broken. But you refused to play their game. You meticulously recorded every detail, fortified your space with watchful eyes, and held fast to honesty, even when it cast a harsh light on your struggles. In doing so, you transformed their weapon into your armor, turning transparency into an unbreakable shield against their deceit. Now we confront the true architects of your suffering, the married duo who constructed their lavish existence atop the ruins of your stolen identity. They didn't stop at draining your credit or piling up debt. They wove an intricate web of deceit, placing commercial properties under your name, launching businesses fueled by your stolen credentials, and amassing a sprawling financial empire built on the sweat of your unseen labor. Their betrayal runs deep, a calculated theft that turned your very life into their personal treasure trove, profiting off your hardship while hiding behind a facade of legitimacy. As you fought to grasp why every step forward seemed met with invisible chains, this couple received a warning from the highest echelons of justice. Federal agents had unraveled the vast reach of their identity theft empire, an operation so deep it siphoned your hard work into their pockets for years. All the while, they orchestrated your ruin with cold, calculated precision, shielded by layers of governmental complicity and protection. Your rise was deliberately stifled, your efforts rerouted to build their fortune as they used every tool at their disposal, military-grade tactics included, to keep you trapped beneath their shadow. Ever wondered why financial freedom remained just out of reach, despite your relentless effort and sharp choices? Because every hard-earned dollar was quietly funneled through their invisible networks, feeding the very machinery designed to keep you chained. Your dedication, your sweat, and your resilience, all fueling the arsenal they wielded against you. The bitter irony of your own success underwriting your oppression would be almost laughable if it didn't exact such a heavy toll on your life and spirit. They thrived under the shield of corrupt officials who bent the scales of justice to their will, turning courts into weapons and rulings into tools of oppression. Every legal barrier you faced was engineered to block your path, with orders and documents twisted beyond recognition to protect their lies. Meanwhile, you battled for even the smallest measure of fairness, handcuffed by deceit and blind to the vast, hidden network of corruption that rigged the system against you from the start. Their final ruthless tactic was to trap you behind bars, aiming to bury you permanently within the prison system. They crafted intricate schemes with cold calculation, knowing that a criminal record would shatter your reputation beyond repair. By painting you as the villain, they ensured the spotlight would never fall on their own web of financial deceit, allowing them to continue their crimes unchecked while you bore the full weight of their deception. Your unwavering refusal to become a pawn in their vile exploitation shattered their plans in ways nothing else could. They craved control, a broken spirit, someone tangled in their web of dependence, vulnerable to manipulation through the very systems they controlled. But your moral fortress stood unyielding, a glaring obstacle to their dark agenda. Corruption thrives only when consent is coerced or given, and your steadfast integrity disrupted the foundation of their entire scheme, leaving them desperate and exposed. Recall the moments when they dispatched shadows cloaked in temptation, hoping to lure you into traps of compromise. You saw through the facade instantly, rejecting their offers with quiet strength, knowing that you would never stoop to the depths they demanded, especially not from those they sent as bait. Your steadfast refusal didn't just protect your reputation, it safeguarded your very soul, preserving your integrity amid a storm of pressure designed to break even the strongest wills. Their ties to sex trafficking reveal the true depths of their depravity. This was no random act of crime or isolated moral collapse. It was a vast, organized network of human exploitation embedded deep within the fabric of power. Shielded by layers of government complicity, hidden behind forged documents and fabricated legal narratives, and facilitated by collusion across multiple levels of law enforcement, their operation thrived in the shadows with chilling legitimacy. The corrupt judge presiding over your trial was a stark testament to how far the rot had spread within the justice system. Your hearings were little more than scripted plays, carefully choreographed to justify decisions already made behind closed doors, an illusion of fairness for outsiders to witness while the truth was systematically buried. You sat there, witness to the blatant miscarriage of justice unfolding before your eyes, refusing to be broken. With unwavering resolve, you held your dignity high and meticulously recorded every twisted verdict, every piece of evidence cast aside, and every rule they trampled, preparing a record that would one day expose the full scope of their deceit. You observed every moment, knowing they underestimated you as just another silent casualty, someone who would bow to injustice without resistance. But even the judge, meant to be the guardian of fairness, had sold their soul, entwined in this orchestrated campaign of persecution. Your only crime was exposing the truth, threatening their illicit empire with your whistleblower's courage. Yet they wielded their power to crush you, blinded by greed and corruption, convinced that your silence was inevitable. The whole machinery was rigged from the inside out, designed to shield their illicit empire while ruthlessly crushing anyone bold enough to challenge it. At the heart stood the wealthy mastermind, whose vast business network thrived on a web of corrupt insiders embedded in government offices and official agencies, turning the law itself into a tool of crime. Your courageous whistleblowing didn't just unmask isolated acts of fraud, it tore open the curtain on a sprawling system of corruption, costing them millions and triggering legal storms that echoed across borders, threatening to dismantle their entire reign of deceit. Chosen one, when the full truth finally comes into view, it will shatter every expectation you've held. This is no isolated act of greed or scattered pockets of corruption. It's a vast, orchestrated empire of darkness. You've been locked in combat with an international syndicate, a ruthless cabal weaving its influence through borders and industries, moving with the cold precision of a corporation and the shadowy tactics of the world's most covert intelligence agencies. Their reach is as deep as it is hidden, and your fight has been nothing short of a battle against a global force of calculated malevolence. This cabal wields deception and manipulation like a well-oiled machine, operating on a scale that would make even the largest multinational corporations envious. Their trafficking networks are vast and precise, shifting people, capital, and power across borders with the ruthless efficiency of a Fortune 500 giant. They've transformed human exploitation into a cold, calculated industry, complete with research teams, innovation labs, and strategic planning, pushing profit margins higher while burying the suffering they manufacture deep beneath layers of corporate polish and secrecy. You became the spark that shattered their dark machinery, your radiant energy disrupting the very foundation of their control. Their usual arsenal of manipulation and fear tactics fell flat, powerless against the shield of your heightened awareness and unbreakable spirit. While they operated in shadows of deceit and low vibrations, your elevated consciousness acted like an impenetrable fortress, an automatic force field that rendered their psychological attacks useless, unraveling their plans with the sheer power of your light. Your grounded life, rooted in home, family, and the quiet joy of simple moments, completely upended their plans. They counted on breaking you down, pulling you into their web of false promises and manufactured dependencies. But instead, they met a force immune to their schemes, someone whose fulfillment springs from places beyond their reach, untouchable by greed, unshakable by manipulation, and shielded by a contentment that no wealth or power could ever corrupt. You became the final fracture in their facade, the relentless refusal to absorb their toxic waves, dismantling their entire operation. Year after year, they launched a relentless barrage of manipulation, each attempt crumbling against your innate resilience. Your spiritual discernment acted as an unyielding fortress, shielding you from their psychological traps and rendering their tactics useless. No matter how hard they pushed, your unbreakable will and clarity of purpose shattered every plan they tried to force upon you. When your ordeal reached a critical tipping point, federal forces stepped in, activating protocols reserved only for the gravest crimes with global reach. A seasoned detective was assigned, not for petty local disputes or isolated incidents, but because the authorities recognized the vast, intricate network orchestrating your persecution. This wasn't just a personal battle anymore. It was an international investigation into a complex, shadowy operation that threatened more than just one life. As the mountain of evidence grew undeniable, higher courts stepped in, recognizing that this case surpassed the reach of local systems mired in corruption and complacency. Judicial authorities with true authority took notice, empowered to cut through the layers of deceit and obstruction. Your pleas, once dismissed or ignored, finally reached those capable of dismantling the charade, promising not just empty performances, but real justice that could penetrate the deepest shadows, shielding the perpetrators. Behind closed doors, panic ripples through a criminal web unraveling at its seams, an empire whose exposure threatens to bring down powerful politicians, corporate moguls, and corrupt judges who long profited from shielding their crimes. Your urgent call for help didn't go unheard. It reached the ears of true authorities equipped with the power, influence, and endless resources needed to strike decisive blows against these international networks. The tide has shifted, and those who once ruled in darkness now scramble to contain the fallout from the light you unleashed. Divine timing orchestrated the convergence of crucial evidence and the arrival of just the right officials, creating an unstoppable force for justice at the perfect moment, one both powerful and legally unassailable. Throughout this harrowing journey, your unwavering integrity earned you deep respect among those who saw the truth, even as others waged relentless campaigns to dismantle your reputation through calculated character attacks. Your honor remained intact, shining brighter against the shadows of their lies. Now there is a growing demand, not just hope, for justice that restores what was lost and punishes what was hidden. The tide has turned, and with the veil of fear finally lifting, long-silenced victims have begun to step forward. Their voices, shaking but powerful, carry stories of being drugged, exploited, and trafficked under systems that once ignored them. But with new protection in place and real accountability on the horizon, they're no longer alone. Their courage, sparked by your stand, is fueling a wave of truth that can no longer be suppressed. Survivors recount chilling memories of waking up in strange environments, stripped of agency and clarity, their bodies used as currency in a system that never saw them as human. Their testimonies, echoing across regions and demographics, expose a coordinated structure of exploitation camouflaged behind legal documents, polished institutions, and government-endorsed silence. The evidence is undeniable. This was a marketplace of flesh, meticulously managed and monetized, where human dignity was erased in favor of revenue streams, and lives were treated as expendable assets in a morally bankrupt empire. Individuals were methodically broken down and reprogrammed into dependency, their identities shattered by chemical hooks and psychological conditioning tailored to enslave. These weren't just victims. They were captives locked into cycles of addiction and trauma, bound to a network that first created the void and then sold the illusion of relief. The so-called entertainment empire they built wasn't for amusement. It was a carefully engineered illusion where scripted performances masked real suffering, and the line between performance and imprisonment was erased by design. Human beings were transformed into commodities, trapped in scripted realities where their pain was packaged as entertainment and their trauma exploited for profit. These weren't isolated incidents. They were fragments of a massive machine engineered for control, revenue, and silence. You were the outlier they couldn't predict, the one who gathered scattered puzzle pieces and revealed the hidden infrastructure beneath the surface. Through your efforts, disconnected horrors became undeniable evidence of a sprawling, transnational system of corruption, now exposed in full for the world to reckon with. Your unwavering commitment to truth became the scaffolding investigators used to construct an airtight case. Where others saw scattered chaos, your testimony revealed deliberate patterns. Where silence once reigned, your meticulous documentation spoke volumes, exposing a criminal network that thrived in the shadows by erasing traces and silencing victims. You provided the connective tissue, transforming isolated tragedies into a prosecutable conspiracy that no longer had anywhere to hide. Every hidden mic, time-stamped file, and strategically archived document you collected became a nail in the coffin of a system that relied on silence and erasure. Your diligence didn't just expose a criminal empire, it validated the voices of those who had been gaslit into silence for years. For survivors who once felt invisible and unheard, your work became living proof that their suffering was real, their stories mattered, and justice wasn't just a fantasy. It was now within reach, carried forward by someone who refused to look away. Your voice became the spark that shattered a long-standing silence, piercing through the walls of fear and shame that had imprisoned so many. By stepping forward, you didn't just share your truth. You dismantled the psychological chains that kept others bound in cycles of abuse. Your resilience created a ripple effect, empowering survivors to reclaim their stories and walk out of captivity. The very systems built to isolate and suppress now tremble under the weight of collective testimony, all ignited by your refusal to be broken.